Well, September means a lot of things. Back to school, new activities for the family, and why not have those activities include reading? Our friends at McNally Robinson Booksellers, of course, have things to read for the whole family. And Chris Hall from McNally Robinson back for another edition of What to Read here on Classic 107 this morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Nolan.
So I understand, before we get into the 5 titles for this month, that there is an exciting new venture that McNally has contributed to with other independent booksellers to help even further curate the reading needs of the community around it. What can you tell us about the Booksellers List?
Yes, the Booksellers List. It is a new venture. We kind of got ourselves organized over COVID as independent booksellers across Canada, and we thought one of the things we could do is kind of combine our efforts. That we kind of like the same kinds of books. If we put them to a vote, we'd come up with a list that we could get behind collectively, and that's what we've done. So the Booksellers List will happen seasonally. The first one is out now, so not all the books have released, but the list itself is available, and we will be promoting those books through the fall, and that's combining each of us and our promotion, but also the Independent Booksellers Association will be doing a lot of national posting, and then the publishers themselves will be getting behind it. So it's kind of exciting. The authors are excited, and we're excited. Yeah, so it's good. Yeah,
I'm imagining a gathering like this involves like a Godfather-style basement of some library somewhere where all of these independent booksellers come together and they have like this debate about how this list can be curated.
And then I start throwing my weight around.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, absolutely. As the size of McNally itself would absolutely, I think, allow yourself to do that. So we've even got a few books from the Booksellers List in your recommendations for this month. Maybe we can start with this one called Pick a Color by Suvankam Thamavongsa. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, exactly. Suvankam's book is the lead title on that Booksellers List. So
Number
it's
one.
The one that we most agreed with. It got the most votes, kind of cut and clear and very clear on everything else. So yes, we're going to start with a bang. So Suvankam, she won the Giller Prize back in 2020. She had a short story collection called How to Pronounce Knife, which won that. So this new one is about Ning, and Ning is a retired boxer, but to her customers who visit her nail salon, she is just another worker named Susan. So day after day, the Susans in this salon, they buff and they clip and they polish and they tweeze, and they listen and they smile and they nod. But of course, beneath all this superficial veneer, Ning is a woman haunted by memories of the past, opportunities lost. She navigates all the complicated power dynamics with her fellow Susans, while at the same time dealing with the way her customers look at a woman like Ning. So it's very sharp, very complex, very slyly subversive of this world that many of us enjoy privileges we don't even think about and know about. I guess that's part of what they are. And so, this is the lead title of the Booksellers List, and we are having an event that we are pitching right around that list, but of course our own purposes too. That's on October 21st,
Perfect.
7 p.m. You can come in and meet Suvankam, and
Terrific to be able to start off with such a bang. What is it, for those who have not encountered Suvankam's writing before, when you are compiling this list with the other booksellers and you're throwing your weight around to make sure that it's at the top of the list, what is it about the writing style that is so captivating and is so worthy about being put in that number one slot on the Booksellers List?
Well, I guess to back up a little bit, it was very gratifying to see the kinds of books that got on this list. I mean, this list is a very McNally Robinson kind of list. So they're books that, well, I call it literary, but it's books that are obviously got a plot and they've got character and they've got the basics, but they're also digging deeper. They're always, it's not a straightforward story where you just get to be entertained. It's a story that, makes you ask some questions and makes you look around the world in a different way. And anyone who's listened to this show long enough knows that's my kind of book. So
yes, it is.
So yes, that's the kind of writing we're definitely looking for. And I was very pleased when we got down to the details that my fellow independent booksellers are like-minded in such a way. Yeah.
Sure. So another book on this list that is on both the Booksellers list and your list for what to read. And I saw this and just kind of like what you were saying, I thought, wow, this is a Chris Hall pick if ever I saw one.
Indeed.
This book by Thomas Wharton called Wolf Moon Dog.
Yes, indeed. And Thomas is the author of several very good novels. I can recommend all of them. Icefields, Salamander, and The Book of Rain, which I brought on What to Read back in 2023, if you recall. This novel begins thousands of years ago. There's a young wolf who is turfed from his pack and left to fend for himself, and eventually he meets a clever new animal who walks on two legs, and this animal offers Wolf a deal. In exchange for standing watch at night and alerting the others of danger, Wolf will be given a meaty bone every day. So Wolf agrees, and over time he gives into there's this inexplicable urge he feels to seek companionship with these humans, and so Wolf becomes dog. And the novel follows Wolf as he's reincarnated through the ages.
Wow.
From ancient Egypt, I should say, to Greece, to the space race, all the way into the future. It's a story about humans as well as dogs. And Wolf obviously brings out the best side of humans, but there's the bad side too, which leaves him a bit perplexed, and he finds it inexplicable. So, yes, this is a second book that booksellers across the country agreed on, and it is on our booksellers list. And I should say that Thomas Wharton will also be joining us for an event on October 3rd at 7 p.m. So
2 for 2.
To meet him, yeah.
Terrific stuff. I mean, there's something in the quality of this book that, for me, as somebody who gravitates a bit more towards nonfiction and learning opportunities, more so towards fiction, that there is something about like journeying through history in this way that is rather appealing to folks who might have different reading inclinations than this kind of fiction. When you are considering books for this list, Chris, or if you are considering things to put on the new Booksellers list, how much do you think about sort of cross-genre inspiration or things that have different types of accessibility or different types of ways that audiences can find their way into these books?
Well, that's an interesting point. It's the bookseller. I always think there are two parts, right? There's my love of books, but then you have to sell the books, and so there's a commercial appeal, but then there's commercial books, which I think of as more entertainment, and so these books have a combination. People, in my experience at McNally Robinson, our customers are up for challenges. It doesn't mean you have to read nothing but challenging books. You can read books that are entertaining for sure, but we like to have you mix it in. So yeah, I'm always looking for that combination. When you hit that sweet spot between a really great plot that pulls you through, but then it's also got you thinking and looking up at the ceiling going, wow, that's the best kinds of books for me.
That's the same sort of quality that I think we'll probably find in our next title here by Michael Redhill, The Trial of Caterfelto, another sort of magical journey into a historical-ish sort of a realm.
Yes, exactly. I mentioned the Giller Prize again, since Redhill won that in 2017, his novel Bellevue Square. He's published poetry since that, but this is his first novel since then. And yes, this follows the late 18th century conjurer and amateur scientist Gustavus Caterfelto, who has made a name for himself traveling across the English countryside with his bag of tricks. His tricks are carefully engineered with the help of his colleague, confidant, and our narrator, Roger Gossage. One day he comes across a mystifying object that he can't figure out, and it's a metal horn, and it emits a disembodied woman's voice. She calls herself Siri of Toronto and claims to speak from a place plagued by climate catastrophe and social unrest. Ooh. So the men use this horn in their magic shows, but they struggle to know what's going on. They don't know where this thing comes from.
Sure.
So it's a novel that blows your mind a little bit, one that conflates centuries of time, forces the reader to stare up at the ceiling and wonder, what is it that we are doing to this world?
Sure. Amazing to be able to... This is another theme that I think that we've talked a lot about, is in these sorts of worlds that exist sort of beyond the world that we live in. There's all these parallels that speak to the current human condition. It occurs to me that maybe that also might be something that when you're gathering in that dingy library basement with your Booksellers List conspirators, maybe that's another element that you are. Is that another element that you all are considering, like something that has some that speaks into the zeitgeist of the moment?
Absolutely. I think there's so many ways to appeal to us, I think. And that's why I use a word like literary, and I'm not even sure what exactly I mean by that, because I'm surprised all the time. But it's just something more, something that captivates me, or deeper would be another word than the plot.
Okay.
You know, just grab me on the first page and pull me along. This might slow you down. It might stop you in your tracks.
I like that word deeper, because I think it also really speaks to the penultimate title in our list for this month, which is a deeper sort of understanding of love in the Cree word for love by Tracy Lindbergh.
Yes, it's by Tracy Lindbergh and George Littlechild. In fact, Lindbergh came to our notice, her previous novel Birdie, especially when it got on the Canada Reads selection in 2016. And this new book, she teams up with artist George Littlechild too. And they consider the teaching from an elder that in their culture, the notion of love as constructed in Western society does not exist. So here, through her fiction and his iconic painting, they respond by traveling through the themes of love, like within a family, ties of kinship, desire for romantic love, strength in the face of loss, the importance of self-love, as well as just the deep exploration of a meaning of what all my relations means.
Wow.
Moves us, what are our responsibilities to our human and more than human relations? What are the obligations of love? It's a powerful story. It's lots of connection, strength. What does it mean to live lovingly?
It's another thing to add as well to something of a theme that I've seen in the last few months of what to read, these books that call us to further consider our role as we continue to pursue the 94 Calls to Action, for instance, by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, to try and further our understanding in a way that maybe we wouldn't necessarily think about otherwise, but when we do, it's all that more edifying and important on the journey to reconciliation.
Yes, absolutely.
The final title that we have here for this month is from an author that's very well known here in Winnipeg, but a story that takes us well beyond Winnipeg and indeed Canada. What can you tell us about the latest novel by David Bergen?
Yes, well, it is called Days of Feasting and Rejoicing. If you've been paying attention to this show at all, you'll know that David is one of my favorite authors. Again, Giller Prize, 2005 for his time in between, but he's been shortlisted and longlisted several times for others, including his last two books, Hear the Dark and Away from the Dead. So yes, this new novel, it takes us to Thailand. The novel opens when Esther and Christine are, they live together in Thailand, but they're holidaying in Bali as we open. Christine is caught by an ocean wave and she drowns, and Esther struggles valiantly to save her, but in the chaos that ensues, the police arrive and they confuse Esther for Christine. And for someone who would prefer to be anyone but herself, this is the perfect solution. No matter what the consequences are, Esther pretends to be Christine. So if you've read Patricia Highsmith's Ripley series, or if you've seen any of the screen adaptations, you're in the right territory. This is a character trying to pass herself off as the more glamorous, wealthier version of herself or her friend, while trying to keep the truth at bay. So great psychological drama, lots of tension and suspense. A character who seems to be kind of blithely unhindered by questions of truth and morality. She's just giving in to these darkest of temptations. So once again, it is event season at McNally Robinson.
Just about to
and
ask.
David's going to join us on September 22nd at 7. And I should also say that David is our author of the month in September. So you can come in and look at those great books. I recommend all of them. You're not going to go wrong, just even if you pick it at random. But
Hear the Dark,
Hear the Dark,
one of my all-time favorite reads. And I I'm sure that we will not be disappointed by this one either. Those titles again: Days of Feasting and Rejoicing by David Bergen, The Cree Word for Love by Tracy Lindbergh, The Trial of Caterfelto by Michael Redhill, Wolf Moon Dog by Thomas Wharton, and Pick a Color by Suvankam Thamavongsa. You can find them all in display at McNally Robinson's Grant Park location. There's a nice convenient display right at the front of the store. You can find all of these titles. And of course, we will have a detailed breakdown at our website, classic107.com, and on the Classic 107 app. Chris Hall, such a joy to hear about these titles as always, and I'm really excited to dive into these things in the month of September.
Excellent. Thanks for having me once again, Nolan.